righty. Hello, everybody. I'm Tim Lee. I'm the director of the Texas Retired Teachers Association. And thank you for joining us live today. And sorry for being a little bit late. We had one of those very busy days happening here downtown at the Capitol. And we're watching a bunch of bills moving through the legislative session. I begin by saying I'm so sorry that I wasn't able to be here last week. We canceled on short notice. Some of you know that I did have COVID, but now I am COVID free, feeling a whole lot better. I'm just glad that if I was going to get it, then I'm so happy that I got it a week ago and now don't have to worry about it for our big day at the Capitol. I've actually done one test and a backup test just to make sure. And so all is well for me. Excited about all that we're going to talk about today and hopefully get everybody revved up and ready to go. So look, our activity and focus for the next week is all on our day at the Capitol. And if you could see my office right now, you'd see my iPad has the House on. My phone has the Senate on. We're watching all of the bills and things that are occurring. And a number of times today in both the Senate and the House, there have been more and more comments about TRS matters and helping retired school employees in Texas. There's budget discussions. There's other bills that are moving forward. At more than one occasion today, I've heard our elected officials say that the big issues this session, including TRS. And so, if you think about what are the big issues in the Texas legislature right now, some of you would say, well, property taxes, that's probably a big issue. That is a big issue. But right after, property tax conversations or right ahead, depending on who you're talking to, TRS, helping TRS retirees is a big issue right up there high on that list. And just like every legislative session, we hear about so many amazing things going on in the great state of Texas, in our education, in our healthcare world, in our business community, in economic development, all of those things that are just amazing about the state of Texas. And that the state has to make decisions on how are they going to fund and appropriate dollars or schools and universities and all that stuff. And our issue as an organization, which is helping retirees, is at the very top of the things that legislators are working on. And so I'm excited to say that you all have done a tremendous job as advocates, as grassroots advocates, working on all the ways to help retirees. And so if you are able, please come to our TRTA Day at the Capitol, scheduled for April 12th. And that is what this show is going to be about today. Little reminders why it's important, what the focus is, what our message is. And if you're on the fence at all about coming to the TRTA Day at the Capitol, I want to try to convince you that by the end of this discussion today, you will agree it is a must-do event. Don't miss it. And so we're geared up and ready to go. I had an opportunity today to talk to our 20 district presidents, tremendous TRTA volunteer leaders across the state of Texas. There are buses that are coming here. There are folks bringing vans. There are folks bringing their individual cars. Please, if you are brand new to TRTA, if you've never been a part of something that we've ever done before, if you are someone who hasn't yet found a local chapter that you want to get involved with, and you're just trying to figure out, is this something that I can do? Is this something that's for me? I promise you, this is an event that you will want to be at. This is going to be the biggest day for retired teachers in the last 2 years and for the next 2 years. April 12th, 2023. Be at the Texas Capitol if you're a TRS retiree. If you care about your annuity and the fact that inflation has been eating away at that hard-earned TRS retirement benefit that you receive, if inflation has been impacting you and you have the ability, please come to the Texas Capitol and be a part of this day. It is a day of advocacy. It's a day of education. It's a day of celebration. And we are celebrating the idea and the reality that TRS Texas and the people that are in that system are going to get some help. And how much help we're going to get and how that help is going to be distributed is still being discussed. Now, some of you watching today may not be keeping track of the days that we've had in legislative session. Today is day 87 of the Texas legislature. Right now, on the floor of the Texas House is the budget. Right after that, they're going to have a conversation about the supplemental budget. So these two bills, if there is anything that is required to be done during a legislative session, the number one and only thing that is required to be done during a legislative session is the adopting of a budget for the state of Texas. That item is on the floor of the House right now. It's going to have probably several more hours worth of debate that's going on with that budget. And being where we are in this legislative session at day 87 out of 140 days, and they are now talking about the budget, all of these other items are moving. And probably what you all know from our reporting a week ago is that the Senate has already moved Senate Bill 10 out of that chamber. And it was received in the House on March 30th, and it's waiting for action, whatever the next step is going to be on that. If you kind of look at, the way things are playing out for retired teachers, the budget, the supplemental budget, and then the TRS enabling legislation, those are the items that all come together to make the benefit enhancement ultimately a reality for retirees. And so I'm still getting questions from our members, which I want to keep getting those questions about what will this bill end up looking like by the end of the legislative session. And I don't know. I just don't know, which is why our day at the Capitol is so important for all of our members this legislative session. And so, again, I've said before on this broadcast, it's probably not very becoming to say I'm begging you to come and do it. But again, if you are able to be in Austin, Texas, and be a part of our rally day, you will not be disappointed. Our event is scheduled to begin early on April 12th. Now, we have some activities going on for those of you that are coming in on April 11th. And I have said before that one of the great speakers that we've got coming is a guy by the name of Dr. Ray Perryman. And Dr. Perryman has done a lot of work for our teacher retirement system and is very well known to us as an organization. He's well known to the entire state as a state demographer. He's an economist. I mean, he's a brilliant guy. And he's coming to talk. Sorry, guys, I'm getting too excited about this stuff. I hate to do this on live television, but if I don't, I'm probably going to get in trouble. So Dr. Ray Perryman is coming to give an overview of how the Texas economy is affected by this massive economic engine, which is the TRS retirees who put all of that billions of dollars in the Texas economy. And he'll probably talk about how a benefit enhancement would just would not only be good for you all, but good for the Texas economy. Tremendous speaker, funny guy. Very, very pleased to know that he's coming on April 11th. And so if you're coming in the day before, you won't want to miss Ray Perryman. He'll do an amazing job. He's the primary author of a document that is put out by the teacher retirement system called TRS, A Great Value for All Texans. We just call it the Great Value Brochure. So that's who that person is, and you will not want to miss it. But on April 12th, we're going to have a whole bunch of stuff going on. The two big items that we are a part of during that day are the gallery recognitions. And I say that they're recognitions, but really what they are is it's an engagement opportunity. Even though we're not sitting here having a conversation directly with those elected officials, the presence of our membership surrounding, all of those elected officials on the third floor gallery looking down, that engagement is a very real thing. Those legislators start looking around for people that they know from their hometown. They wave, they say, all the things about the teachers and the retirees that have affected them during their career. It's it's an opportunity for a unique kind of encouragement that legislators think of the legislative session like anything else, where you sort of have an energy tank, and you get to day 87 of that legislative session, and that energy tank is running a little low. You've gone through a whole bunch of debates and a whole bunch of process and a whole bunch of stuff for the last 86 days. And now you're on day 87 and you got these late night things going on, and you're talking about billions of dollars doing, different things for different people. And you're bringing, by coming to our rally day and sitting in that gallery and engaging with these elected officials, by cheering them on and showing that sense of gratitude and that sense of connection, you're bringing a hometown reality check to these elected officials. And so that we're not just talking about the billions of dollars that's going to be paid out in this race. You are bringing that hometown relationship visibly, personally, to the Texas Capitol to fill up that energy tank of these elected officials, so that they will get these bills across the finish line before the 140-day mark is over. And so those of you that are coming and you've already committed to being there, I am so grateful and proud of you for making that commitment. There are a lot of people that are watching this right now that are leaders in TRTA that would say, my annuity isn't the highest annuity in the world, and I earned it, but I'm not maybe hurting as bad as some of the other folks in my local community. I know they cannot come. I'm going to show up for them. And that is the part about this organization that I love so much, is that so much of our advocacy by our dedicated grassroots folks is done on behalf of others. And if you, again, have never had a chance to engage with TRTA, and you come and see the work that we do as an organization, I think that you're going to say, man, oh man, first of all, a $35 investment in this TRTA membership thing, y'all are pretty good about being stewards of our dollars. And yes, we are. But the other thing is, the bang for the buck is pretty high. And so you're going to see how we organize and fill up the galleries on the third floor of the Texas legislature, both in the House and the Senate. Now, right now, friends, we have a legislative session that is sort of going according to plan, where you've got the House starting their daily activities around 10 o'clock in the morning in the House chamber, and the Senate starting around 11. And so just like, your favorite football team, come early, stay for a while, get loud, that sort of thing. Same sort of deal here. If you are heading towards a Texas House, you probably want to head there around 9 o'clock in the morning. You might be sitting there for a little bit, but we want to sell out crowd. We want every seat filled. And there are other groups that are going to try to be there, that are going to be there during our day at the Capitol. But we want to have as many of you in those chairs in the House as early as we can. So if you're heading that direction, probably want to make sure that you're in Austin by 9 o'clock and heading towards third floor gallery. And just, try to find a seat, get to know the person you're sitting next to, have a conversation, and then sort of wait for things to start up. And in the Senate, it's going to start at 11. If you show up and that Texas House gallery already has a line, we're going to try to have some spotters looking in and seeing what seats are still available. If there's a whole bunch of seats, but there's still a long line, it may say, hey, it's just taking a little bit of time for people to get in there. I don't think it's going to be that difficult, but the line can get long. I've seen lines before wrap around the rotunda stairwell handrail that people can kind of look down and see what's going on. I've seen those lines wrap around that area. So just be ready to kind of move in that direction. If you're going to the House by 9 a.m., if you're going to the Senate by 10 o'clock. And there are some rules. The first rule is a Tim Lee rule, and that is, if you're going to the gallery, be extremely careful because the steps are a little uneven. If you haven't been to the House or the Senate gallery for a while, there are not a whole lot of handrails, and the seats, the back of the seats may be the best place to just sort of hang on to. But those steps are real shallow. So you just want to make sure that you're taking your time, finding your seat, and then getting ready for the activities. There are what we call decorum rules within the chamber as well. And I was mostly a rule follower when I was in school, and I'm sure a lot of you are certainly rule followers. But one of the rules that they don't really encourage is for everybody to make a lot of noise during the legislative session. But I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of problem if they call on the day at the Capitol, TRTA day at the Capitol, and they're laying out our resolution for a little bit of encouragement through applause and just having a good time. And it's very likely that the speaker or the lieutenant governor may remind us of some of that decorum that they've got to maintain with a smile on their face. But listen, these people are excited about TRTA coming just as much as we are excited about being able to show up there. And this day isn't about perfecting the bills that are moving through the legislature, whether that's HB 600 or SB 10 or the budget or what. This day is about a mutual appreciation for investing a whole lot of resources into helping retired school employees who have been waiting desperately for some kind of increase. And so I still believe this legislative session, we're going to end with a raise for retirees. I believe that. I believe that there will be some kind of stipend for retirees. What that is and what that COLA amount is, I don't know right now. I'm not sure what that's going to be. The House has some version of this. The Senate has another version of it. They're going to have to meet and work some of those things out. We're engaged in those conversations as an organization. But I know on April 12th of 2023 at 10 in the morning, and as they call that group to order, the Texas House needs to know that the Texas Retired Teachers of Texas, that was a bit redundant, the Retired Teachers of Texas showed up and that TRTA is here to make some noise and encourage these people to continue that good work that the Texas House is doing. And same thing in the Texas Senate. Texas Senate's already passed a version of their big TRS bill, $4.5, almost $4.6 billion in addition to the billions of dollars that are appropriated to TRS generally. Y'all, on April 12th, 2023 at 11 o'clock in the morning, we need a full gallery. of folks showing up and saying, yeah, keep doing that. I have seen a lot of good things come out of our events like this. I may have had a different opinion of what days at the Capitol really meant, or rally days may have meant 15, 20 years ago. But today, I believe that because of the enthusiasm and the excitement, the energy, the visual impact, the stories, the sincerity, the representation, the education, the advocacy that all of you bring to the Texas Capitol during our day at the Capitol, I think it makes an impactful, meaningful, substantive difference for all of the things that we as an organization are trying to work for. This organization has tremendous credibility. You, because of who you are, have that credibility. And it is a distinct privilege that we have such a big turnout for this event. And again, I have gone to different things before that I felt like I didn't know anybody, and so I didn't know if I was going to show up and have a place. If you are brand new to TRTA, I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. If you are that brand new person to TRTA, recently retired, been retired for a little bit, just don't know where to get involved, please show up. If you are in District 13, if you're in District 12, District 20, that's the major metro Austin and surrounding area, major metro San Antonio and surrounding area, Waco and surrounding area. If you can easily drive to Austin within a couple hours, I'm asking that you consider coming to Texas, to the Texas Capitol, finding a place to hang out with us for a morning and into an afternoon, and I'm going to buy you a bowl of ice cream. So on the east lawn of the Texas Capitol, we're giving away free ice cream. And if there isn't some reason to show up other than that, then I think that's a pretty good reason. So we need you. We need you. The way that this proposal can get better is going to be determined over the next 35 days. So as it gets better, it's going to be built on the foundation from April 12th going forward. This is not a done deal. There's nothing in the legislature that's a sure thing until it's over. So please, hopefully you can understand the level of enthusiasm that I have about this event, and that I want you, I need you. TRTA wants you, and we need you to show up. And so, clearly this is going to be a big deal for us. And what a statement it would be if our expectations were that we were going to have 1,200 people that show up, which is sort of what our guess is right now, around 1,200. What a major statement it would be if 3,000 people showed up. I mean, I don't know if that's possible, but if you're on the fence, or if you know somebody who needs something to do, please let them know that TRTA and Texas Retired Educator Day at the Capitol, April 12th. It's going to go from about 9 till probably around 1 or 2 o'clock. There's going to be media here. There's going to be a lot of folks that are going to meet legislators and have a good time. But the most important thing, at the end of that event, I want, and my hope is, that every legislator will be saying, I want to help these people. I want to do more to help these people. These folks shouldn't have to come to the Capitol and beg for more help. Let's do something bigger than we've ever done before. That is the kind of momentum that we want to have moving forward for the next 35, 40 days after April 12th. So, all right, I'm just going to take a quick look here. I I'm looking at some of the comments. Thanks, y'all, for showing up. Oh, well, we got somebody checking in from Albuquerque. All right, that's awesome. I know some of my friends have said, "Hey, I cannot be there." Understood. If you know you cannot be here, and if you just want to work your phones or your email chain a little bit and say, "Hey, I know I cannot be there, but maybe somebody else could go in if they feel like you're inviting them to show up." Let me just talk a little bit about the bills themselves. Some people have sent, again, a lot of questions about the bills. House Bill 600 and Senate Bill 10. As we spent an entire 1 hour long show talking about the differences in those bills. Clearly, those bills have lots of different components. The raises are a little bit different. I see somebody's comment here saying, "Hey, we need a 10 to 12% increase." I agree. I agree. We calculate the loss of buying power depending on when somebody retired, being anywhere between 14 to 34%. Some people have emailed me and said, "Hey, look, I think the raise should be across the board." I'm not disagreeing with you. Part of the reason that you have these levels and tiers of increases is because if you retired 20 years ago, not only have you never had a raise, but your wages are based on what salaries were 20 years ago. And so the legislature in their initial rollout of these bills are clearly trying to show an effort and not show, but put a demonstrable effort into helping people who have lower incomes, lower annuity amounts being raised up a little bit more because it's been years. And I know that a lot of people may disagree with that concept. Just because inflation has been so high on everyone. I don't think anybody's going to disagree that people who have lower annuities probably deserve to have, as an overall lift up. They probably deserve a greater lift just because that percentage of loss of buying power is so much different. And so I don't think anybody disagrees with that. But the idea is, as I talk to my friends who are looking at these proposals, we've all been hit by inflation. We've all been hit big time by these costs. And even today, legislators are struggling with trying to put more resources into these kinds of adjustments and helping retirees. This is not the end of the road. This is not the end of helping retired school employees in Texas. This is a major investment of trying to do as much as what the legislature thinks that they can do this legislative session, and then keeping doors open for the future. So, but I kind of was alluding to this earlier. House Bill 600, it's different than Senate Bill 10. The Senate has a different version of the budget than the House. This always happens during a legislative cycle. For me, and I think for a lot of our members, we're not saying, well, one of these bills is better than another. Both of these are really good bills. There's a lot of bold initiatives being taken here. They have raises, they have stipends, they have additional funding, they keep the pension system solvent. Some of them have higher increases in revenue. There are aspects here, similar aspects of these bills that we know the legislators are going to agree on. And then what that ultimately looks like at the end of the day is yet to be determined. So as much as I'd like to say, that absolute certainty here on these things, I'm going to have to encourage all of you to accept that there's a little bit of fluidity here, a little bit of malleability that will still shape these proposals over the next 35 days. And so, the legislature is going to work on that, and these two chambers are going to have to come together and agree. is this stipend the right amount? Does it affect these number of people? When will this go into effect? All of that stuff is still on the table. And so, and I would encourage all of you to come and share your story with your elected official about that help and the ways that people can get more accomplished with the bills that are being, pushed forward. So, thank you everybody for sending in your questions. And again, I don't want to not put enough emphasis on, or too much emphasis on this. But if you're concerned about some various aspects of these bills, Senate Bill 10, HB 600, listen, that's good. That level of concerns allows people to ask questions. Questions lead us to potential ways of agreeing in areas where they may have disagreement. But some of that's going to be outside of our control. We're going to influence it. And you can influence it. You specifically will be able to influence that by just showing up on April 12th. So keep an open mind. Please understand that none of this is yet set in stone. And there's a whole other 35 plus days of legislative session after you all show up here that we still are going to work these proposals through the system. I really want you all to know that by the end of our day at the Capitol, I want a sense, my hope is that a true sense of appreciation can be conveyed to the legislature with the spirit of let's finish the job. And again, let's get these elected officials in a position where they want to continue to help us. All right. I'm just going to take a real quick look at some of the questions. And I see the question somebody said, there are some people that are 75 or over that worked in the system for a shorter period of time. I get it. It's one of the things that I know people are taking a look at. There's question about is stipend going to be given to 65 and over? In the current version of these bills, the House version is 70 and up. The Senate version is 75 and up. Does that mean that it can only be that? No, doesn't mean that. Legislators, again, will have to get together on the differences that the chambers may have. And they could come back and make different recommendations. They're going to have the ability to continue to negotiate between the House and the Senate on these concepts. So none of this is set in stone. What I think is a more permanent look that people can have right now is that retirees are a big item for legislators. And again, the more that we show up and the more that we're visible, I think the more that they're going to be agreeable on both sides of the Capitol, the House side and the Senate side, that when they've got to sort out these differences, they're going to look for the biggest bangs of the buck to help the most people possible. That's what we're encouraging. And I think that's ultimately what legislators want. They want to go home and say, hey, we try to really help people that needed the help the most. And then we spread this out so that everybody benefited. And so I think that's the direction they're going. So we'll have to see. It's still going to take time. Retirees should, yes, I agree that there's a comment about retirees should receive an annual COLA like Social Security recipients. That's the ideal. That would be the best thing that potentially could happen. There's a big investment that would have to be made by all the stakeholders in the state to get that. Probably not going to see that this legislative session, but more and more people are talking about that. Matter of fact, one of the bills, as you all know, House Bill 600 has something called a gain share. It doesn't guarantee, that bill wouldn't guarantee a raise like Social Security, but it would set up the possibility of doing some ongoing increases for retirees. A little bit different than anything else that's been talked about before. So that's a unique part of House Bill 600. Again, something the legislators are going to have to sort through. Somebody, I think, has made a comment about the Social Security stuff, what's going on with that. Look, we're not, I've said this before, we're really focused on our day at the Capitol, but we're still working things on the federal angle. And as you saw last week, if you were watching the debate in the Senate, a lot of comments were focused on how the state was trying to do their part to help retirees, but to really help retirees, the federal government needed to get rid of the unfair government pension offset and the windfall elimination provision. And our state elected officials are talking more and more about that. We intend to leverage that going forward with our congressional delegation. So if you're tuning in for that messaging, I just want to reiterate, we are always working on all of these issues all at the same time. We focus in our messaging some based on what's going on. So, all right, just a few more questions and kind of looking at stuff. It said, why is Texas last in contribution to school retirement? Got here a little late. Can you explain the gain sharing item? Yeah, so I mentioned that just a few seconds ago. Texas contributions to the teacher retirement system are lower than a lot of other states because a lot of other states have had bad public policy, and policy has allowed those legislators in other states to shortchange contributions to their pension system for years or decades at a time, or they have a benefit baked into those retirement benefits that was easy to give, but nobody paid for years and years and years. And those costs finally caught up with those retirement systems in those other states, and their pension systems, unfortunately, are taking on water and are in a difficult financial position. And so they've had to really increase those contribution levels just to keep the systems alive in order to fund benefits for current and future retirees, with some states saying, hey, I don't know if our plans can stay open. And so we're not in that situation. We don't have an ongoing COLA, but we have a system that's nearly 80% funded, one that has an ability to be affordable for our school employees and for our contributors. It's not perfect. It's in a better financial position than a lot of others. And so it's a public policy arena that we always try to find the balance on. The gain sharing concept in House Bill 600 would start in fiscal year 2028. And my understanding is that the way the gain share works is that so long as certain criteria are met, which means the state is making their contributions, that there's legacy payments being made to the retirement system, and that the retirement system is meeting their earnings expectations, then retirees would get anywhere between a 1% and a 2% raise. Could be annually. It could be every couple of years. It just depends on how that language would ultimately be adopted by the legislature and some other budget and funding components that we're still learning some more about. So that gain share system, think of it like this. I mean, the legislature says, hey, we're going to put these funding mechanisms in place. And if you, teacher retirement system, are out there earning at least 7% on your investments, if you earn something above that, we're going to be able to take a portion of that gains and share them with the retirees. So, that's how that sort of works. It's a great, unique concept. Not sure that all the legislators see how that's all going to play out. But that's a concept that Dr. Bonin, the author of House Bill 600, put together in his bill. It's pretty exciting. And it's one that I know that the House is going to take up and debate when they have their conversation on their version of TRS benefit enhancements in the coming days ahead. So, all right. And then it said, if one of the House bills in session passes, when will it go into effect? So the question that I saw said, if one of the House bills goes into effect, which I assume means House Bill 600, when does it go into effect? Well, right now, the House version of their bill for TRS, House Bill 600, requires what they call a vote for it to actually go into effect. So there is something called an HJR, a House Joint Resolution, that would go to the voters in November. So the legislature would pass this. They would load up the budget with the dollars necessary, but it would require the general voters in Texas to go to the polls in November and approve a constitutional authorization for these things to then officially happen. And the bill says that if it's voted up, it all happens. It probably would happen in January. The COLA, the stipend, whatever that is, it would happen in January, according to that version. If it goes down, if the voters don't approve it, then retirees wouldn't receive anything. So that's one of those items that, again, it's a unique and different approach. And as I testified to the House Pensions Committee when we talked about House Joint Resolution 2, it's not something we've ever seen before. And there are members that have communicated with me that they would be concerned that a vote that would make the retirees benefit enhancement contingent on voter approval after the legislature may have already approved it is a sense of a challenge or a risk that it's not thought of as warmly, maybe is a nice way of saying it. There's concern. So that's one of the things that that we see. Senate Bill 10, and I just saw another question pop up, is Senate Bill 10 the same way? Senate Bill 10 doesn't require any voter authorization. So if that is what ultimately passes the legislature, they've got the money in the budget. That money goes to TRS. TRS does the raise. They do the stipend. They'd probably wait till the fiscal year. The stipend conversation, anytime retirees are going to get a supplemental check, it looks like those checks, whether they're supplemental, a 13th check, whatever they are, they're probably likely going to follow a pattern where they're going to occur in the next tax year. So the state has a September 1st fiscal year. So that's the start of the new year. But when you get a whole bunch of money all at one time, the benefit to you is that if you get it in January instead of September or October, the benefit is you're not paying taxes on it in that same year. So it would be in the next year that would be affecting your taxes. So just something that I know the legislators and TRS work on to try to maximize the dollars in your pocket and minimize some of that tax. Taxes always be collected eventually, but try to minimize the impact on that. So, here's a good question. So here's a couple of good questions. Saw an article in the Texas Tribune, great website. I love the Texas Tribune, where it says retirees are already cut out for this session. Can you please address that? I'm not sure what I mean. I know what it means when somebody says cut out. Still recovering. So retirees are set up in this legislative session to, I believe, receive a benefit enhancement. Can something go wrong? Absolutely. Could the legislature say, hey, we decided to go a different direction? Very possibly. But I think what it's saying is that TRS retirees are being identified as a group that is going to be a big priority. And it is so in both the House and the Senate. The House and the Senate look a little different in their bills, but both the House and the Senate agree that TRS retirees are a big priority. We are nowhere near done. So, please don't be lulled into a sense of, well, this is a fait accompli. This is over. We're great. Everything's going to be fine. We have to work this every day until the session is over. And so that's what we intend to do. We don't take anything for granted. We don't believe that anybody is making us any assurances or promises. And we believe that everybody has righteous intentions here. So, but the process is we've got to continue to work this. And so I'm going to go back and see if I can find that Texas Tribune article and address it maybe in a future episode. But I think what they're saying is that retirees are priority. Okay. I saw something about can House Bill 10 and 600 both pass? I'm sorry, Senate Bill 10 and House Bill 600 both pass. Yes and no. House Bill and Senate bills can both pass, but the legislature has to pass a bill in both the House and the Senate in order for it to take effect. And what usually happens, especially in a situation where you have similar bills but not exactly the same, the House may take their version and put it on the Senate bill and then send it back to the Senate and say, hey, we liked your bill, but we took everything out of it. We put in our plan and sent it to you. All you have to do is approve it. And if that's a scenario that may play out, the Senate may say, well, in truth, we liked our bill better. We're not going to agree to adopt yours. Let's go work out the differences in what's called a conference committee. That may happen. And it probably is likely to happen that one of these bills is going to pass both the House and the Senate. It's not going to be exactly the same as what the originating chamber wrote it to look like. And that disagreement is going to have to be resolved in what we call the conference committee. And so both of those bills may pass their chambers, but only one of these bills is likely to pass both chambers and ultimately be the plan that will help retirees this legislative session. So everything in the legislature is complicated, but hopefully that makes sense that, and that's why I say the day at the Capitol is so important, is because the legislators are going to pass their own version. Do I support the House version? I absolutely do. Do I support the Senate version? I absolutely do. And so, I know that we are all going to have to work with our decision makers so that they can make the decisions about what parts of these bills are ultimately going to stick. So that's kind of what we're talking about. All right. Thank you so much for emailing me the article. I'd appreciate it. Here's a question about ERS retirees. ERS is the other major statewide system, the employees retirement system. They've been working to get a benefit enhancement for the last several years. Some of you know that the major difference between ERS, state employees retirement system, they have a defined benefit retirement plan like we do. Almost all, and I think all state employees have full Social Security, whereas most retired school employees do not. So ERS is not affected by GPO and WEP, and they have a very different health insurance program, but they haven't had a COLA or a supplemental check for a number of years. I know they're working on that, and to the extent that the legislature can find resources to help them, certainly think that our friends who served in the state of Texas in these public service style jobs, if the legislature can find a way to help them, that's certainly good news. So we're keeping an eye on that as well. All right. When do we expect a conference committee to meet on teacher retirement? It's going to be several weeks down the road. That's going to be one of those things that's going to go all session long. It's just like any race. You run it from start to the end. And so these conference committees are items that don't usually occur until you get further down the process. And there's a lot of legislative session left to go. So when you show up on April 12th, encourage, and fill up that energy tank of these elected officials so that they say on TRS, we are highly energized to do the most we can for these folks, and let them, push that all the way to the end. We're going to go all the way to the end of the legislative session, y'all. It's just the way it is. All right. Pray we get some help. COLA getting rid of the GPO and WEP. I agree. And The last comment that I see says, thank you for your support. Let's end with this. Thank you all for your support. The very next time that I do one of these presentations, next Thursday, our day at the Capitol will be over. Let's live in this moment, y'all. Let's find every single person that we can to show up April 12th for the TRTA Day at the Capitol. Let's make the biggest difference that we can. I'm going to be there. I'm excited. You can have my bowl of ice cream. I don't need it. I'm going to give it away. But we're going to have a great, great day. Please, if you are able to be in Austin, let's overwhelm the Capitol building. Let's get as many people here as we can. Let's put on the biggest show that we can. And let's make it a day to remember. Y'all have a great Thursday afternoon. I'll be excited to see everyone. Take care. Be safe. See you in Austin.